All right. Okay, hello everybody. This one is our third part of the recording session from Secondsies³ podcast by Alma Pictures LLC and presented by myself, Allison Weaver, and Ayla Hadi, and Jessica Galletta. So, without further ado, we're going to continue our discussion section, and apologies for the previous one being slightly shut off without a closure, but that was due to some technical situation. They were just discussing about the makeup of the show and how they had different opinions about it. So we can continue to hear about the reasons once Jess found the part that Ella was talking about. We can hear what they have to say now and then continue that. So apologies for that delay, but let's get back into it.
I feel like with these discussion sections, we should have that one audio from like the 90s basketball games where it's like, "Are you ready to
You want a little
rumble?"
intro?
Da, da, da,
Maybe we
da,
can
da,
go
da,
with
da,
that.
da. Oh my God. I love that. So I'm going to say, Ayla, that you are right. Those eyebrows. That was a
Yeah,
choice.
and
That
she's
was a
so
choice.
pretty. She's so
Yeah,
pretty.
but
Like,
yeah, and it's like the eyebrows were too thick. They were doing too much. And I
yeah, it
feel
didn't
like
show from far away, but when it zoomed in, it was like jump scare.
right. I feel like how much of that is actual real eyebrow? I don't think a lot. That's why
No, not a
probably.
lot. Yeah, that's painted on.
She probably naturally has thinner eyebrows. But her cheekbones, yo, that's like
Mm-hmm.
so if anyone listening, people, we are on the timestamp is 4 minutes and 47 seconds. That's
And we'll
the
definitely
eyebrows we
link
are
the video, of
discussing.
course, as usual. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
also sent
Yeah.
a link to the older performance from like the
yeah,
30s, I
you
think.
can send that in Discord
Yeah.
after and we'll add it to the show notes.
Okay,
I saw it on
lovely.
your Facebook link. I do want to go back to so we in part two. I was mentioning how like it was giving drag queen makeup in a great way, in the best way, and it. I was saying I was indebted to drag queen culture because of learning how to do makeup, eye makeup for my hooded eyes, and
Hmm.
I also that's why I liked that eye makeup because it was very. I was like I want to copy that, but they had it like kind of darker on the outside, like on the corners. It was very
Hmm.
well. I really liked it, and it was definitely the blending was very while still being bold and dramatic. I think the eyeshadow
Yeah.
was my favorite part of the whole thing.
Yeah. There weren't like bright, flashy colors on the lids.
No, and like I said in the first part, I think, or was it the second part? Like I said earlier, the color of the eyeshadow, it was a neutral, but it complemented the men wearing black because the red was bold enough, like their outfits were bold enough. And we didn't want,
Hmm.
when you do makeup or styling choices, you pick one thing to be bold and then everything else has to support that.
Mm.
Generally, at least that's what I do. That's my rule of thumb.
So, audience, you guys are getting a two for one. You're getting very thorough art discussions along with makeup tips.
So there
Makeup
you go.
tips. We should like on TikTok,
You
you do
can
your
make a
makeup while
special
we discuss.
episode where you can do that if you like. You can do makeup tips for whatever.
I don't know.
You can add that as
I'm not an expert by any means, except
yeah, I
as
didn't
far
work
as
in
like
her
having
makeup
done my own.
department at all, but I have a high
Oh,
respect
yeah.
for those people. That's facts.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So if everybody's done with our main part of discussion, we can go to the next section, unless you guys had more that you wanted to discuss.
No.
Or good.
Okay. Then let's move on to the news, trivia, and other section. So this is where we discuss something that we saw in terms of arts or culture or in popular culture that was interesting to us, and each person will provide their own um little thing that they notice, and we can also link when appropriate to those various things. So someone start us off and then I'll continue.
Sure. There's a interesting little tidbit, nothing too complex, just that global art sales fell by 12% last year, which is, another great, I feel like, recession indicator. Um, yeah. So according to Art Basel and
Visual
UBS Global
arts,
Art Market,
visual arts, you mean?
yeah, visual arts, yeah.
Because performing arts is going up because we're in a
Yeah, yeah.
downturn.
Yeah, no,
Right.
visual art. So like global, like the art sales, like the sale of like
Mm-hmm.
physical art. So according to Art Basel and UBS Global Art Market Report, due to the geopolitical tensions, economic volatility, and trade fragmentation, uh, the market for art has gone down, and the need for people who want to invest in investing in something a little more liquid, they decided to not put so much of their investing money in art. So, you
That's
know,
not that
fun,
smart. Anyway,
yeah, fun
that's
little
interesting.
tidbit.
Yes, I
So
see that.
what did you
I
find?
actually, well, I've noticed, so what I've been paying attention to, I should say, is, and this is very niche to the US market and to the US pop culture market, very mainstream, but it's an interesting discussion. I'm interested in the discourse that it's inspired, and I'm still not landed on where I stand on it, but so they're kind of like separate things that are related. First part is the actress Sydney Sweeney. If
Oh
you're in the
God.
she apparently all of her she makes like she's been in a lot of movies, she's in a HBO show, so she should be making a lot of money, but she says, and she didn't come from a wealthy background, so she's self-made. She says that the majority of the money her income goes towards like all the expenses associated with her job, like publicist, lawyer, etc., stylist, all those things. And I guess recently she has started selling her bath water, or
Oh,
she's done this collab with a company where they sell Sydney's like her bath water infused into soap.
That's
Isn't even
so
really her
yeah.
bath water though.
that's
Isn't
awkward.
even hers. Like,
What?
how many baths does she have to take? That poor girl.
Well, do those neck beards really like would it matter to them? Like, how are they
No,
gonna?
yeah. I feel like she took an actual bath and then they took the water from that bath and then just replicated it.
Maybe she just went into a swimming
Because
pool and then they just took all the water from the swimming pool to make soap.
yes, I mean she'd have to swim pretty
Oh,
vigorously through the whole pool, like just to get all
Yeah,
of
she
her
probably did
DNA in the
laps in the
pool.
pool and then they eventually said, "Great, now let's drain the pool into this vat and then we can sell bath water from."
oh my
Yeah, just like a
God.
big hot tub. But well, so some people are calling into it's like now that actresses are just basically turning to sex work. Is it sex work?
Oh
I'm
Lord, that's a
it
topic
sounds
for
it
another
kind of it's
time.
giving sex work to me. So I I feel like that's a bad recession indicator is that so not to get too much into it, but
Be careful.
modern actresses in like the last what?
I said,
Okay.
please be careful. I have certain restrictions in
Okay.
my channel.
Okay. I will say that that's a serious recession indicator and also just an indicator of wealth inequality just running
Hmm.
amok because the arts, which is like, which it's forcing certain people who don't come from a certain background when they pursue the arts to have to perform a certain type of way
Hmm.
that may or may not be degrading. If again, she has full agency and no shame if you know, it's, she is a grown woman. She knows what she's doing, and there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with selling, like, branding your bathwater, because they're selling the brand. Like, she is a beautiful woman, and she is famous for being beautiful on top of her amazing roles. So it's I think bathwater is kind of an interesting choice because the movie Saltburn, there was that scene where he drank his, yeah, that was like so weird, and that obsession. So I think it's culturally very interesting that this came out shortly after. So I think there's definitely like a through line to that. Then the second thing that's different but related, Sabrina Carpenter, the singer, released the album art for her second album, and it's called Man's Best Friend, and a reference to a dog, but also referencing women's roles. And she's on all fours with her hair being pulled like it's a leash. And then there's a picture of a dog with a collar. And that is some very specific imagery of a word that rhymes with sink, but I won't say it.
Just please, yes. I think that's enough for our audience to get it.
Word that rhymes with sink. And but
so why was this all interested to you? Let's just go to that.
Okay,
why did you highlight?
So the discourse around that is that's become very controversial because a lot of even progressive women are saying that this is not feminism, that this is very exploitative, and that it's actually really bad timing because of everything that's happening with women's rights right now with their bodies and just the trad wife movement. And this is just, it's like, some people are like, well, it's satire, but it's not really self-aware. So I think my thoughts on that is that I'm kind of leaning towards I don't think this is good timing. I don't think it's as empowering as some people want it to seem. I'm sex, you can be sex positive, but you should draw a line at decorum. And I do think that Sabrina Carpenter's album art is pretty tame compared to other similar imagery that it circulates on the internet and just in culture. So I feel like it was pretty tame, but it suggested a lot. And the story was telling was interesting. Also, it's provocative because I feel like now in pop culture, especially in the US, it's like the attention economy is just like wanting to get rage bait and doing something provocative just to get talked about, just to get clicks, which sort of then it just devalues any actual provocateur or controversy, because then it's just like everything's just like exists to make someone mad or emotional to elicit a reaction. But it's like, and it's like less, and then it's like you don't care about the story you're telling, you just want people to react. It's creating a very reactive type of culture instead of like something meaningful. And of course you'll react to things as an audience, you see something, cause and effect, but like it eliminates any room for meaningful reaction because it's just going for straight shock value. And then all your artistic choices center around that. So I don't think it's progressive. And I have mixed feelings about people who are just kind of laissez-faire about it. Like, well, whatever, everyone's, some people think the other side of it is that, people who are upset about it are being too puritanical. And that's like, we're backsliding in that sense. So
that sounds like a very country-specific thing. But yeah, I could see how that's generating a lot of buzz.
But I'd be curious because, it's very specific to the US right now. But I'd be curious on your guys' thoughts on that. Maybe even if whether or not you actually have seen it yourself or just like based on maybe a more global perspective on women's rights and women artists. I'd be curious.
I literally was in the midst of a spirited conversation about this topic earlier in the day that I had to pause because my day got really chaotic. I was on one end of the spectrum and my friends were on another end of the spectrum. And I was very much because like it's tied into other like global events too. Like there's this person called Bonnie Blue who's been pretty horrid and exploitative in different countries across the globe. Like it touched on different important issues. I don't want to like get too into details here, but she's doing something.
Whatever
And
channel. Yeah.
for yeah, for me personally, those three pieces of news, along with the resurgence of red pill content, tradwife content, the general global political climate, because it's not just like US based, it's pretty well documented that this is like spreading across different continents. For me personally, I do find it concerning. I know with my friends, they had like a different perspective of like, well, if people now are so in deep that they can't figure out if something is satirical, is that really the responsibility of the artist? Do we really want to go into art censorship, that type of thing, which is like valid. But for me, I had a very instinctual, like gut in the punch physical response to seeing that image because it came like no context, which I feel like that's something to consider when you're an artist, that not everyone is going to have the full context of your works when they see
That's the
that
importance
image
of the
just flash
artist
in front of
statement
them.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a very like kind of gut like punch in the gut reaction to it. It took me back instantly to this time where I feel like within the 2010s, there was like this popularity, or I would say it was more accepted for women to say that I am a feminist. But there was a time where before you were ridiculed if you had loudly proclaimed that you were a feminist. And that
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. I was called a feminazi. I was told things like, go back to the kitchen. You're going to be my janitor, like literal, like really degrading, sexist things from young men. And seeing
And then
that
I'll tell him,
image
you'll
sort
be
of,
my chauffeur.
yeah, I no, I was
I would have
right.
just dished it right back and said, "Oh, would you like to be my chauffeur or
Yeah,
Want to pump my gas?
concierge?"
yeah, yeah.
I
Right.
said,
Like
"I'll
you're
hire
engaged in a
you.
debate. Go
Would
make
you
me.
like to pay?
Yeah,
Would you like to be
exactly.
paid a good salary? I'll hire you."
Yeah.
I
So
would have
yeah,
just
That's
dished it
great.
to him.
Girl boss.
I
yeah.
never, whenever people give me that kind of crap because I'm in entertainment business, which I have a lot to say about that, I'll say, "Oh, would you like to
Hmm.
work for me? It seems like you have a very extroverted personality type. Maybe you should work in my public relations department." That always shuts them up.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll put you on my payroll.
I'll put you on my
exactly.
payroll. Would you like to work for me?
I'll, I was like, do you want me to put rat poison in your sandwich that you're demanding I make you? Like, what are you even doing right now? But yeah, that
I
it took
haven't been
me.
very good at making sandwiches, and I'm still a feminist.
I prefer
So
Yeah,
making
I think that's a
stromboli.
win for feminism. I'm very good at making sandwiches and I enjoy sandwiches. So I make them for me though. I don't make them for
I
men.
make them for me.
You
Yes,
have to
not
make
for
your own
men.
sandwich. They have to make
yeah,
their own sandwich. They can ask nicely. If I'm feeling in the mood and I'm like, oh, I have extra sandwich ingredients.
yeah, yeah.
So as
So
far as like, how do you, I think, so when it's satire, it is the responsibility of the artist to make it clear that it's satire. Like there's
yeah,
supposed to be some degree of camp. That's what
and
camp is. It's like it's
subversiveness is like you're supposed to
yeah, so
subvert.
that's what makes camp is that you are aware that we're all, it's like even Bertolt Brecht, like his theater, I think of that as like this making it clear that we're telling a story. Like this is what we're all here for. And then it's, making that very clear. And I
So
think
uh, I
because
have
it was
a
no context and I don't think it was as self-aware. So there has to be self-awareness and you have to, and it takes a certain degree of self-awareness to make it apparent without ruining it that it's satire, without being too on the nose.
okay, so I have a
Yeah,
slightly different take on art
Mm-hmm.
generally. Um probably because I am always in a very, what do you call it? Mixed kind of cultural setting constantly all over the place around the world. While I do agree that there is a line between knowing your audience, knowing what's going to really hit someone, clicking for clicks, or shocking for shocks, or being completely inappropriate to your context, that is a definite no for me. I do think that people generally should be educated about symbolism, and that people should make their artist statements on their official pages. They should have their artist statement, like a proper artist statement to give someone the context of the kind of works that they're promoting. Additionally, I think there's a discretion piece that the public media outlets lack nowadays in a lot of countries, not everywhere, of course, but I would say specifically in certain Western countries, that they aren't really catering well to their audience. It's more just like, it's very cheap. Okay. So if we're talking about it more from a French context, you don't explain your satire generally. You do have your artist statements and this, but you don't really always explain the satire. You're supposed to dig. You get what I mean? Or like some other cultures.
What are you supposed to what?
You're supposed to dig. You're supposed to understand this. You're supposed to have a little bit of background as well about symbolism that I don't think everywhere promotes. And you're also supposed to dig for your own meaning, like not take everything at the face value. Because I would say, if we're looking at it from the French point of view, everything is very much critiqued all the time. So it's like, okay, you made an art piece, and they don't really take it from the face value directly. Like it may be a niche or whatever, even provocateur, right? But people will say, let's see, is there something else they're trying to say? And they'll just critique it anyway. They will not always just take it at the face value. For example, the Olympics, which is a whole other topic, French people would not take that exactly at face value. They would look at the symbolism, they look at things. And that show was 3 hours long. I watched the whole 3 hours from Swiss, and they don't show you in the popular media of certain countries that it was actually a complete cultural history of French cinema and performing arts. And it had all the range of different art and culture, from sacred to secular. So it's like the purpose of the piece is easily misinterpreted if we're just doing sound bites, like some cultures like to do. So for me, from my side, I see the objectification of people in the industry, especially in certain cultures where they don't promote the arts very well. If that makes sense. And hold on a second. I will be right back. Somebody dropped something off for me. But to close this part, and I'll let you guys discuss this a little bit while I'm picking this up. But basically, the main thing for me is the art needs to tell the story that it was meant to tell. However, if it's going to be in the public sphere of general public awareness, especially children, that's very important. And social media, I think that there needs to be certain guidelines, whether that is from the leadership of that space or from cultural organizations, because I think it's just distasteful. It feels very cheap, not to mention any other emotions that maybe we will have, of course, naturally. But it feels very cheap. It feels very low value, low content value. It's just like wasting airspace, if that makes sense. And so I feel a certain way about certain pieces, and very, very strongly about them, and very angry about things. But at the same time, I also take it more from a French way. I'm like, okay, what do they really mean? What are they really trying to say? What is the pain or the thing that you get what I mean? So I kind of look at it more from a symbolic, artistic thing, and don't let it hit me quite as emotionally, although I do think there's a line, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So on that note, I'm very much like Allison, like I'm very much aware of symbolism, or if I don't know the symbolism, I don't know it, but I don't get caught up in my emotional reactions of things to pieces, but I like these pieces, that image, I can see how it upset people. So I'm sensitive to other people having other experiences and sympathize with that. I do think that, where was I going? Oh, so I do agree. I very much like that with the symbolism. I can't make, I'm not going to make, I don't, I'm hesitant to make a final judgment until her entire album comes out, because it also is, it's A, without context. B, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of supposed to be, because it is it's also advertising. Like it's a commercial sort
Can
of,
you
and then when you get like
Yeah.
advertising art, it's like a whole, it sort of adds that world into it. So it's very much a teaser and very much one that grabs your attention. So I feel like until the whole thing comes out, I think it'll be maybe slightly edgier than her most previous album, which I loved and was fun. It was like fun and
Yeah.
bubblegummy, still sort of provocative, but it was fun and bubblegummy and not like exploitative. So it was like everything she had done was with the wink. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
the satire there was much more obvious. I don't know if it will be so this time around. Um,
Yeah.
or maybe she is rebelling against, you know, puritanical
right? We don't
ideas
know what
because
the
the US
artist
is very
at the end of the
puritanical.
day really wants to say, but like I said, I do feel that there's a very art is so powerful, and I agree with you, Jess. I think art is so powerful that it demands discretion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with something like this, I mean, there's the artist herself, there's Sabrina Carpenter, but then there's also her entire creative team. So I get the sense that she has a lot of creative control in her work, but also at the same time, though some of those choices might not have been made specifically by her. I mean,
Right,
she
exactly. And
okayed
I
Yeah.
them,
don't think a
obviously.
lot of them were made by her, especially if
It's
she's
a question
attached
of
to a
how
bigger
much,
brand.
yeah, how much of a say does she have in it? Like, does she have like veto power on any of the decisions that were made? Which I think she did, because I feel
Well,
like
hopefully,
Yeah.
but she may
it's
not
not
have
like
enough
she woke
agency
up
to
and
do
they're
it.
like, "This is what you're doing." Whereas in
Depends.
other pop, like K-pop, it's just like they're like, "This is what you're doing." They don't really have creative
Depends
control.
because
Yeah.
if an artist doesn't have agency in a lot of countries, and I mean by
Yeah,
wins, awards, uh, lots of clout, such as someone like Kate Blanchett, she can make all her choices by herself. She has so much
right.
agency.
Mm-hmm.
But like
Yeah.
when people are within that like period of time earlier in their career, they don't often have agency.
Yeah.
So you make your own
I
stuff.
mean, I
Anyway,
think yeah, here like the way that our discussion kind of plateaued off with my friends is that we just got into a discussion of is there enough subversion happening for it to actually be satirical, or is it just a copy paste of
right, and
1960s
I think it's cheap.
pinup dehumanizing imagery? Yeah,
It's
which for
cheap.
me personally, they disagreed. They said in the context of her latest single that it is satire, and they explained why. But just me personally, just looking at the image, I was like searching for some sort of way that it subverts like the original source material, and I just wasn't seeing it. I just
It's
saw
just copy paste.
copy paste.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
that's
art
kind
at
of
that point. It's just plagiarism.
yeah. But yeah, that like I know that there's like a lot of debate happening on that subject. But me personally, just in the context of everything that's happening in the world and just how scary everything is, that just for me felt like the cherry on top. Like I can totally see younger guys like photoshopping a girl's head onto that picture and just be like hurt derp, like look at you, blah 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 type of thing, which again someone might say that's not her responsibility, but it's just another cherry on top, that's all.
Okay.
Also with
So
AI, how that can
for,
happen, it's so easy. But
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah, for the sake of
Yeah.
time, let's go to the second one.
Mhm.
Okay, so Ella, would you share yours? Then I'll share mine. Mine is very different than all.
Oh, I did.
She was the first one. I was the second one.
Oh, my brain is off. Let me bring my brain back to the present. Good job,
No
Sel.
worries.
Okay.
Right.
Can you tell I haven't had my
Allison?
breakfast? Anyway.
Yes.
So I'm ready now. Thank you, everyone. This is, by the way, like we wanted our episodes to be realistic, so we're not super editing crazy. So I hope you enjoy that. Anyway, my topic is very different than yours. I actually just found something nice, and it's by Berlin University of the Arts. And they are doing a beautiful thing, which I love. Speaking of craftsmanship and craftspeople, they have this beautiful program, which is fantastic. And it is the summer and winter workshop program. And it's happening in Berlin from 19 January to, and the next one is, so it's June 10 to September 26th. So it's already, the summer one is already happening right now. And you can do different workshops there. And then there's the winter program, which is the 19 January to 20 February of 2026. And basically what they do is they have like a bunch of courses in fine arts, music, design, and performing arts, and interdisciplinary formats. And there's like over 30 workshops inviting artists, advanced students, and graduates from all kinds of disciplines to develop their artistic practice further and connect with others in the international space. And they basically create new spaces for artistic exchange. And it's so great. I love that they're doing this. And actually, the coolest part is they offer discounts of 100 euros to anybody who are alumni and students, or some university students of their course, of their university. And they also have 50 euros discounts for multiple bookings. And I liked the theme, which is why I'm mentioning it. The theme is called Utopia. I thought that was really interesting. So they said this about it. They said, in times marked by instability and uncertainty, art plays a key role in processing experiences, challenging existing boundaries, and creating alternative spaces. It invites us to envision alternatives to the status quo, providing a platform to challenge boundaries and rethink the way we engage with the world around us. Participants will have the opportunity to dive into deep into these ideas, using their artistic practices as a means of exploring and expressing visions of a better world. So a few of their little spaces you'll see drawing on regarding insects. They're doing drawings of insects, the city that never sleeps, looking at urban spaces and repurposing them. Fake it till you make it, imitation the context of art and design and forgery, prop making, deep fakes, and fake news. They have one on performance, activism. They have one on audio, walking, like in urban spaces. They have sound specific, prop making specific. There's so many like little workshops they're doing. And they're using their space, which I love. They're using the space outside in Berlin and building these really cool spaces. So some of them are in the outdoors and like gardens. They'll also do some like in industrial spaces. So it's like a very nice balance between like using a traditional lecture space and moving outside into nature or into the urban spaces to create experiences, and also to develop the crafts, which I think is really fantastic because it takes people and gives them an opportunity to have exposure to different crafts in a way that is interesting and kind of different than your usual spaces. So I enjoyed that little thing, and I will not be able to go because of some other commitments. But I think if people are able to go there, it would be a very good experience in terms of
wonderful
options and quality. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. And the thing that really sticks out to me, I'll tell you this, that the last thing that really sticks out to me is because people are working on getting people back into the crafts. Because for a while, people were moving over to the digital spaces and whatever. And now the trades and the crafts, especially artistic crafts, are doing more outreach, of course, to continue to preserve their heritage art forms. But in addition, I think the crafts are also becoming more appealing to some people who are getting tired of just
Mm-hmm.
the digital environment. So it's just a really nice thing to see the resurgence of that and how people are kind of exploring and creating in different ways, especially, using digital and analog scales, or just even emerging analog technologies, ways to make art more interesting and useful to the audience. So that's the story around that.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like digital artists are so over Adobe right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with everything that they're doing with AI, and if you
Yeah.
use any of their software, then automatically they are allowed to use any of your work to train their AI models. So, yeah, I can totally see why people are moving more towards crafts with everything that's been happening.
It can only benefit us,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
Also, just like making stuff with your hands, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And that inspires creativity in a very special way that I think if you're only trained in digital, you lose.
And it's also really a great opportunity for community building. Like a lot of like historically communal activities involved like physical crafting together.
Yes. Yeah. Especially like also teach so much of teaching and learning as kids. It's like crafts. And lately I've been into collaging, and that's been um really, it's a great creative outlet because it's a creative thing that's not something I'm trying to sell or make money off of. So I
Hmm.
approach it differently, and I need that refresher, that mental reset, because when it becomes your job, then it eventually just becomes like this loop where it's like feeding itself, and then you're drawing from like emptiness because you've been drawing from something real to, and then you start to monetize it, but then it's like it keeps feeding yourself, so then it's like then your practice is just tied into your job,
Hmm.
and then you have like nothing to draw from because you're like, ah, it's
You lose
Yeah.
that sparkle.
yeah, you lose that spark, and it just becomes like iteration. So it's like iterations of iterations of iterations of your original organic spark that was there, and you have to like return to it. So I think it's really important and key to create things that are not for money, without the pressures of like thinking of your audience or an audience, and also without the pressure of having to be good at it. I think
Hmm.
every creative person, anyone who works in a creative field, should indulge in a hobby that is not their area of expertise and be a beginner at something again.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think that can only benefit, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny because online I also see these things, these courses for intuitive collaging. I'm like, there's other types of collaging. I didn't know that.
Right?
I
What are
didn't
they
know.
making
I've been
collages
that's
for?
what I've been doing that the whole time. I didn't realize there was another way.
Yeah, where have
You're
these
just
people
going
been
off
all
of
their
pure
life?
instinct.
I know. I mean, there's some techniques and stuff, and I've been looking on Pinterest and copying some of the, getting inspiration from that. So, but now Pinterest has AI generated stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I know. It's
horrible
too
all
much.
around.
Ugh, it's too much. It's too much. Anyway, so let's go to our final thoughts for our lovely audience who's been with us all the way. And usually we will have two segments, dear audience, but this day, we have
This day.
we have three. So anyway, tell us, anybody want to share any last things with the audience? Because we covered a lot of different trains of thought today.
I've been
I have
sucked dry.
She's like
same.
dry.
I'm drawing.
Good.
It's again. I. It's a. I mean, we're in a thought loop. like I said earlier, no, I've said every thought I probably had today.
It was like a
Yep.
verbal diarrhea.
I need to reboot. We'll get back to not more thoughts.
She'll get back in the next episode with more thoughts and feelings.
Reload, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. We definitely covered a lot of different kinds of topics and ground today. And I think it was really delightful to discuss this dance form from Russia that we were talking about, and Caucasian dance specifically. And I think that, yeah, it's really fun to go and explore different places and spaces around the world. And I say spaces because we're not just talking about sovereign nations, we'll be talking about dependencies as well. So just bear with us as we go around the world. And so we arrive at the closing frame. And of course, each episode is a curated counter, a dialogue between tradition and transformation, personal insight, and shared wonder. If something resonated, unsettled, or simply made you pause, then this journey has already begun. As we step away from today's canvas, remember, culture is not a fixed portrait, but a living composition, one shaped by questions, perspectives, and the courage to look and look again. Join us next time as we continue tracing the lines between place and possibility, one brushstroke and conversation at a time. Thank you, and have a good morning, evening, afternoon, or night, wherever you happen to find yourselves.
Yay.